Our next speaker, Jose Echevarria, is a historian and geographer. He is a professor and a researcher at the Pontificia Universidad Católica in Ibarra. He has many publications. Echevarria is a member of the American Society of Archaeology and the National Academy of History. He will be speaking today on Inca expansion, the road network in the northern highlands of Ecuador. Dr. Echevarria.
Buenas tardes con todos.
Good afternoon.
Un abrazo desde la mitad del mundo.
I would like to
Ecuador.
greet you from the equator of the world,
Sincero
Ecuador.
agradecimiento
My sincere gratitude to Ramiro Matos and his fabulous team for
reunión tan especializada.
making this meeting a reality specialized on the Inca Road.
Tengo que agradecer también
I would also like to express my thanks to the American Embassy in Quito that
fácil presencia acá pese a los problemas mundiales
helped me
presión de visas.
get my visa to be here in spite of the troublesome process.
Voy a hacer una presentación muy breve
My presentation will be very brief and very general,
en base de dos consultorías en las que tomé
based on the
parte.
information that I gathered through two consultancies where I participated in by request of the National Institute of Cultural Heritage.
Con el apoyo de la colega Tamara Bray,
I had the support of Tamara Bray
University,
from the Wayne State University,
colegas norteamericanos.
as well as from other North American colleagues.
Algunos datos por trabajos personales.
I will also provide some information that I gathered through personal work.
Territorio ecuatoriano
In the current country of Ecuador, the Inca Road,
en la mayoría de los casos
in most of the cases, seems to overlap with
orígenes
the local indigenous roads. Those roads,
otros propósitos
made for other purposes during times of peace, were narrow,
la modalidad ancestral de caminar uno
such that it was
en fila india
typical at the time, since they walked one person behind the other one.
fueron ensanchados
These roads were
para los propósitos del imperio inca.
fixed and made wider for the purposes of the Inca Empire.
Y construidos
They're well designed and built,
trecho en trecho
and
aproximadamente cada 20 o 25
every
kilómetros
20 or 25 kilometers
para hospedaje.
there were way stations.
Algunos cronistas
Some chronicles
valiosa información
have left very valuable information about how long it took to build
ya mencionado en
certain
varias
stretches,
intervenciones, cronista
especially
León.
Cieza de León is one of the people that provided more detailed information. The descriptions in the chronicles have been
El trabajo de los arqueólogos
proven by the work done by current archaeologists.
indicar que
It's important to note that compared to other countries, Ecuador
ventaja
is in disadvantage in terms of field research.
se conoce
However, from what we know to date, there are very impressive sectors or areas because of their landscape and cultural heritage, as well as the amount and quality of architectonic vestiges, and above all,
proyectos de desarrollo
because of the possibilities of their integration in social and economic projects that will favor current populations in that area
mantienen marginadas del
that unfortunately are marginalized vis-a-vis global development.
Pretendemos unir tres tiempos
Our objective is to unite three different times in history, past,
para
present, and future in order to have a clear vision of the reasons that made the Inca people go and conquer the northern Sierra of Ecuador. The work that has been carried out in Ecuador has integrated two thematic areas. One has to do with the cultural asset with regards to the physical appearance of the road, but also, such as it has been said today, we need to include the populations that live in these areas. Ecuador is a very small country. It has a little more than 250,000 square kilometers, and its population is a little bit more than 15 million people, according to the 2010 census. It has great advantages. It's seventh among the richest 17th countries in terms of biodiversity in the planet. Is the country with the highest diversity in the country in relation to its territory. With regards to its records, Ecuador has 2 of the 25 hotspots in the planet. In other words, spaces where there is highly concentrated biodiversity. It has a key marine area, the Galapagos Archipelago, which is part of the Amazon area, considered the part of the lungs of the planet. It has 11 out of the 122 largest areas that are important in terms of bird conservation, and it's also the second area in terms of diversity of vertebrates by unit of surface. It's the third country with the largest diversity in amphibians, more than 400 species. Fourth, in terms of birds diversity, this is 17% of bird species in the planet. Fifth, in terms of butterfly species diversity. And then with regards to cultural diversity, we still have 13 groups of indigenous peoples with 10 native languages. Another important aspect is natural protected areas. Ecuador is a small country, but 19% of its territory is protected areas. This is important in order to understand why the Incas invaded Ecuador, or the current Ecuador, and to understand the importance of the Capacñan. In terms of the reasons that made the Incas dominate Ecuador, we have numerous population that is organized, and they are specialized, especially when it comes to textiles and ceramics or pottery. There's also a great diversity of climate floors, from subtropical to tropical floras to very cold areas too. There is wet plains with elevated valleys, and also hills with terraces. And then in terms of agricultural production, we have coca, cotton, corn, beans, potatoes, fruits, among others. In other words, products that the empire needed for its development. In the northern part of the Sierra, we have precious metals, mainly gold, silver, platinum. The Inca incursion in the northern part of the Sierra was as follows: Tupac Yupanqui from 1490 to 1493, and then its continuation of this conquest by his son Huayna Capac from 1493 to 1525. What were the effects of the Inca Empire? The use of Quechua as a language, the worship to the sun, the specific administrative political system, architectonic vestiges, and also the road network. In less than 100 years, the empire went from the Maule River in Chile in the south all the way to the north of the Rio Anguas Maya. The whole Sierra of Ecuador is crossed by the Capagnan, and we have two main roads, north-south, and several east-west roads that linked the coastal areas with the Sierra. Some areas were very important because of the products that you can find them, both in economic terms as well as natural terms. In terms of the consultancy work that I did, we did field research in the province of Caraichi, which is on the border of Colombia. We have two stretches of the road, a western one and an eastern one. In spite of the fact that UNESCO demanded specific requirements for all roads, the northern part was not taken into account. We are going to show some slides because we need conservation policies to preserve these areas. I will try to talk to Celine, who's here, to see if we can do a binational project together with Colombia to preserve these areas. This is the border between Ecuador and Colombia. The road continues on the summit of the hills, the mountains. It's a road that goes through many different types of landscape. And like I mentioned before, the local population has to be integrated and involved in this process. They live in very traditional buildings, such as the one shown in the picture. In that picture, on the right we have on the right we have Colombia, and on the left we have Ecuador. And the old road serves as a boundary or a border between Ecuador and Colombia. There, in that slide, we can see Pucará, that was quoted by Cesar de Leon, and recently it was discovered when we were studying the Capagnan. We found different artifacts on the surface and also a building with materials and traditional construction techniques. In some parts of the Inca Road, it seems that time froze. We have very traditional old buildings next to colonial buildings. Something very important that helped us define the old road, on top of talking to locals that were sometimes 90 years old, 100, and even up to 105 years old, was the presence of the Christian cross that replaced the apachitas. In other words, sacred places where the local spirit or deity was worshipped. So that the travels would unfold well, without setbacks. In some sectors, the road has been widened, but the road continues to be made of dirt. In other areas, they are used to build modern roads. The livelihoods of the people along this road continue to be traditional means of or livelihoods in Ecuador. These roads were used during the colonial conquest, and they continue to be in use today. Many are also abandoned, covered by grass. In Ecuador, we call it kikuyo, which help to preserve the soil. In other sectors, these trails were covered with stones, were paved, and in the province of Imbabura, there are two stretches that go north-south, and one of them is on the east part, and the other one is on the east-western part. This one is the Pucará Tapia Pamba, where and in the picture we can see the valley of Tapiamira, where cotton and coca were grown. Recently, we found the Baño del Inca. It's a structure of 10 meters by 20, with made of stone, that shows very important features. For example, a double floor. The one on top is has rectangles, and the one at the bottom has rectangles, and the one on top has a different shape. Each corner of this ceremonial site has staircases. And then we also find open and closed waterways or channels. Incas already had cold water and warm water. Then they had a system to purify water when it was murky. This is the current state of this site. It's towards the western side of the Capacñan. Then towards the south, we can see also traditional livelihoods and a paved road. We also have some stretches that are still made of dirt, covered by grass, but preserved in their original way. In Quito, the road goes through the highest areas, from which you can see both mountain ranges, the western one and the eastern one. In the central Sierra, we have Luctambo, carved stone, very well preserved, that is being currently used as a restaurant. It It is important to underscore the following that I dedicate to my authorities, that our heritage is not only a remembrance of the past, but an opportunity in the present also.
Vamos a continuación a observar
And now I would like to show
toma aérea
an aerial video of the road that is right on the border of Ecuador and Colombia that was filmed with a drone.
pueden ustedes observar
As you can see in the video, the road is preserved very well,
la altitud tiene un horizonte bien
and it has,
alto,
given its altitude, it has a very wide horizon which provided security at the time of the Inca conquest. And now to finish, I would like to show a video prepared by the National Institute of Cultural Heritage that summarizes the Capagnan or Great Inca Road in Ecuador.
Ecuador, Argentina.
Ecuador, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, and Peru raised their flags to celebrate the Capagnan in the list of World Heritage by UNESCO. For the first time, UNESCO has given this distinction to 6 Latin American countries that share this good of exceptional value. Capagnan, the Andean road network, was the cornerstone of the Inca Empire. It covers some of the most rugged areas in the continent. Around 30,000 kilometers connected different centers in the empire. They were built more than many. They covered a long surface from the center of Argentina all the way to Colombia. In Ecuador, we find the road from Rumichaca in the north all the way to Amalusa, Loja in the south. It goes through valleys, mountains, highlands. It goes through protected areas, national parks, biosphere reserve areas that have great biodiversity. The Capagnan, the Andean road networks, continues to link villages and populations that show a great diversity in terms of culture and race. We have Afro-Ecuadorians, indigenous people that use this network of roads that existed before the arrival of the Incas and that were used to exchange products. People on the coast exchanged cotton shells, emeralds, and among other products. And from the Sierra, they exchanged potatoes, tools, and from the western part, they brought cinnamon, medicinal plants, animals, monkeys, feathers, furs, among other things. In order to include the Inca Road among the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, certain kilometers were picked that included engineering works with staircases, bridges, channels that were built during the pre-Inca and Inca period. The 6 Latin American countries have translated this heritage into an integration project, transnational project, and they committed themselves to safeguarding the cultural heritage and improving the conditions, the living conditions of the populations that preserved this road that has been declared World Heritage Site by UNESCO now.
En la actualidad, la identificación,
Currently,
registro, catalogación,
the
investigación,
identification,
conservación,
categorization,
puesta en
preservation,
valor, difusión y uso social del
functionality, and social use of the Capagnan will contribute to the development of values and identity and self-esteem as well.
pluralismo cultural,
And it will also promote cultural diversity and will improve the quality of life and economic conditions of the populations that live along this World Heritage Site. At a regional level, the Capagnan project offers the possibility to make the Inca's dream a reality. The dream of Simon Bolivar and the dream of many Andean people that want a motherland without borders, without injustice, without poverty, without contamination or pollution, without abandoned or eroded fields. Today, more than ever before, we need dreams and collective purposes that bring together the peoples and that fight for sustainable human development and environmental development. Given the laws of old wisdom, it is important to rescue this as an alternative, a valid alternative for the creation of a society built on social values. We need to bring wisdom to the center of our concerns, of our knowledge. Knowledge will teach us how to live together in solidarity so that we can reach in the near future or create societies with rights where everyone can find their self-realization in peace.
como experiencia en el caso de la provincia del Carchi.
As experience in the case of research of Capañal, we have integrated the archaeological component, the component of communities, component of cultural landscape, and the component of cultural itineraries and industries. These great cultural gifts in Capañan and the archaeological sites are part of our cultural goods, the natural environment and the nearby human settlements, includes traditional knowledge and the information that Andean communities of the past and present have that allow us to consolidate an alternative for our own development, especially in those geographic areas of knowledge where Western science and technology has failed. The reality is made up of many dimensions, and precisely the human and cultural dimension should be integrated in all socioeconomic development proposals for sustainability. In this context, the Capañan represents an opportunity to work in alliance with governmental partners and non-governmental partners, with ethnic territories in ethnic communities in the territories and other grassroots groups to contribute to consolidating the Capañan as an articulating access in the Andes and a vision of sustainable development of conservation and the management of natural and cultural patrimony between all of our countries, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Argentina, with an approach that includes objectives of conservation with other needs and opportunities of the subregion to promote social capital, cultural and natural capital associated with the primary Indian road. Thank you very much.